Welcome to our first podcast. Hey, Paul, why are we doing this podcast?
Well, thanks to technology, we can now see how many of you actually read the emails we send out, which I believe is around 5%. And when it takes about 5 hours of planning and oodles of hours figuring out what to do with all the kids, it's not quite worth it.
Which is why you haven't heard from us by email in over a year. But things are happening.
So we're trying out this new idea of podcasting. We're starting on YouTube, as you know, because you are here. And I will try to find a way to upload the same things to Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcasts. But speaking of finding things, why are we still here? Well, as most of you know, during the pandemic, our plans to go back to the Big C were thwarted. So we prayed, and it seems like God had called us to Chiang Mai. And we assumed it would be for a short waiting period. And so we waited, and we prayed with our leaders who were also considering going back for a little check-in, see how things are going up north. And I felt very uncomfortable, and I told them so. I said, I feel like God's saying it's not quite the right time. And shortly after, we had a coworker who was detained for 10 days. So that affirmed for us it's not quite the right time. So I have been working at an international school here in Chiang Mai for over 2 years now, working with third culture kids, struggling along with that, but it has been such a blessing to be able to go work where my kids are going to school, so I can know exactly what they're learning and who they're playing with. And it's been an interesting ride. It's been a challenge. But what have you been up to for the last 2 years?
Well, it's funny you should mention that because it feels like, what have I not been doing for the last year? We arrived to Chiang Mai pregnant with our fourth child. When he was born, he had all kinds of medical emergencies. And so naturally, after about 5 months old, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, and just, got all the mental health help that I needed. But one day, our pastor's wife brought fresh made bread to an event that I fell in love with. And I asked her, would you teach me how to make this bread? And so as I started learning, I found it to be my mental health hobby. And I was baking so much that even our own family couldn't finish it all. And people were happy to have it, to the point where some people were starting to pay me for it, have a weekly subscription. And then I just kept learning more recipes to the point where we catered for Thanksgiving last year. We just catered a Christian retreat event for about 70 people earlier this year. And so come around November last year, I started taking on local Thai staff, starting with one who dropped out of culinary school and realized, I don't think I want to be a chef. I want to apprentice under a baker. And so his mom and I were already friends and said, I think I know just the person for you. And so it's been a great outlet, not just for me, but for other people who are looking for life skills training, but also just a welcome place to learn and make mistakes, because even I am not professionally trained, but we learn how to make delicious things together. And sometimes we make lots of food for events that we host in our own home. And what we've come to find out, that even in a city with a lot of overseas workers, they don't really get together and have real friendships. And so as we've started to host things in our home, it's become a warm and inviting place for people to share their true hearts and their burdens. And acting as the real church, we bear those things with one another, and we mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. We have already moved on to our most urgent prayer needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so because we don't want to take too much of your time, we do want to break down real quick how you can be praying for us.
So the first one is we have 4 little ones and now a little dog. But our kids are all over the place in characteristics and desires and identity. Our oldest thinks he is Chinese American, but only remembers a handful of Chinese words. Our youngest speaks mostly Thai and a
Hill tribe language.
Our 2 middles are happy to be in Thailand, but also want to visit America to see grandparents. So we need a lot of help not losing our minds all the time with them. They're very active, and we love them. and they're in a very sensitive time of life right now. Also, it is so hot in Chiang Mai. I don't know if you realize this, but when you are sweating inside in front of a fan and you've got four little mouths asking you to do things, it is quite easy to lose your temper. So pray for us. I need a lot of patience and probably about 5 more hours of sleep a night, but that's how you can pray for us. Also, Maddie shared a little bit about her bakery operations, but maybe she can share a little bit more about the needs of the people she's been hiring.
Yeah, and so I kind of mentioned how it got started with one person that sought me out, and then he has actually invited, his friends, his brother, and now even his sister to come work in our bakery. And I love them all, like almost feeling like a mother to these teenagers who are trying to adult for the first time. And they trust me with a lot of things that they don't necessarily talk to their own parents about. But I do feel like it's a critical time in our relationship where there's like a spiritual battle going on for how they choose to spend their time. I'm very proud of one of them when he said, "Oh, yeah, someone invited me to drink, but I said, no, man, I gotta go to work." And he told me that. And I told him, like, I'm glad you chose something productive. Um, but right now it's the Thai New Year. Everyone wants to party, and it's been hard to get a hold of them for a consistent, like, daily or even weekly schedule. And so I feel like we've made a lot of forward progression. Not even with the bakery. I feel like that's a means to an end to be ministering to these people. But yeah, we've gone a number of steps back to resume old lifestyles or priorities.
Yeah. Well, and one of them actually, we're trying to figure out if he'd be a good language teacher for me. Something we've been praying about as we're here longer than much longer than we anticipated. Would it be a good idea for me to start learning Thai? And it's hard because my heart wants to keep studying Chinese, and I do have lots of opportunity to use it, but I have even more opportunity to use Thai here in Thailand. So I was praying for that focus and that direction, and focus and direction at my work at school too. Currently, I'm a teacher's aide for 4th and 5th grade, and also I monitor all the time that the kids are outside for recess, so I get to memorize all 200 plus names of kids K through 5th grade, which is quite a task. But I've grown to know so many of them, and as they graduate off to middle school, a lot of them say, well, will we see you anymore in middle school? And I've built these relationships up. So figuring out how do I make that work? And I have taught in their chapel a few times in middle school, and that's gone wonderfully. And there's some other opportunities there that I might be able to take advantage of. But I don't want to do things just because they sound nice. I want to do them because that's where God has us. And that's part of actually a bigger theme is there are so many needs here in Chiang Mai that it would take all day to list them out. But we don't want to go after things because they're needed. We want to go because that's the thing God is calling us to do. Because if we try to go after everything, we will drop the ball when it comes to parents, when it comes to our own spirituality of being connected to Christ. And so we really need that focus, which is why if this podcast thing works out, it'd be a huge blessing for us to be able to share effectively with you in a timely manner, and that we would all go to God to see what He's planning for us and for you. So we're going to try to get this out maybe twice a month to start. We'll see. You guys can add comments, say what works, what doesn't work. Do you want longer? Do you want shorter? More than what you want? What do you need? Tell us. We'll try to get it.
Embarrassing.
Gotta have some dad cringe in there. That's in the bloopers.
Oh, no.
Bye-bye, y'all.